Welcome to Brightly, You Radiant Being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so you can shine your brightest. This season, we're embarking on a transformative journey that honors the cycles of rest, renewal, and rebirth. As we explore the depths of the human experience, we'll dive into personal growth, recalibration, and regeneration. Through our shared experiences, friendship, and passions, we'll inspire thought provoking conversations and soul driven advice to help you step more brightly into yourself, inch by inch.
All right, everybody. 2024 is almost wrapped.
Amy
And
got real serious.
I'm well, I'm struggling with, am I happy about that? Does it feel like it just
Oh,
rushed by? And if I'm happy about it, does that mean I'm just like wishing my life away? Like I'm having all these emotions about the end of the year. I don't know. How are you feeling?
it's January 15th. I don't know what we're talking about today. It's January 15th, 2024, and we just recorded our prep for the year. And I fully remember what my goals and word of the year are, and I have not strayed from them once. A couple episodes ago, you said you were going to do it. Here we are.
I know. And I almost spit it out this time. All right, I gotta quit just like drinking anything around you. Um,
Um, okay, no, I want to go back to what you said.
yeah.
Wow, this is like the second time uh, in a very short in 40 minutes that you have blown my mind with saying exactly what I've been feeling and haven't like named yet. Um, how how will you know like if you're happy about it or if you're sad about it, or will you continue to just let it end as like an intermingled braided feeling?
Ooh, I like that intermingled braided feeling. I don't know that I need to know if I'm happy or sad. I don't know that I need to name it. I think that there were this year has just been such it's been a year, right? It's really been a year. And I feel like this winter is a very dark winter. It feels so, and maybe it's just because of my own timing. You know,
Mm.
I turned 66 this year. I'm looking at different things a little bit differently. I thought I would have more done, completed this year. But if you haven't listened to The Frolic or episode what is
47.
it? 147, go back and listen to that because that one did help. It's just that even though it helped, 147 seems like it helped for next year, not so much this year that's already
Um,
happened, that all the weight of my expectations are sort of still on my back for
mm.
it. Yeah.
I can't believe it has taken 4 minutes for me to say this. Time is a social construct.
Right?
With that said, right, the fact that we track our goals and try and make them time bound or try and reflect on years, right, as being full. I turned 40 this year, right? Like you said, you kind of hit you've progressed in age to a certain point. It's the 66 is a milestone, right? Or
Mm-mm.
but every year is a milestone. But I turned 40 this year and I was really thoughtful in like the closing out and in the reflection of my 30s. And I realized I did a lot more in that decade than I thought. And I think I kind of came back and like shared on the air. The that old saying, the days are short, but the years, or no, the days are long, but the years are short.
Yeah.
That was kind of the adage I was living by. And I was really grading myself based on what I was not getting done each day. But when I
Mhm.
look at the years, I bought a house, I lived through a pandemic, there were many hellos, many goodbyes, right? Like there was a lot that I did. Um, And so I'm trying to be kind to myself as this year closes out,
Mhm.
feeling not how I wanted to kick off the next decade, right? Like after reflecting on such a beautiful 30s, and granted my 40th year is not anywhere near complete. But as you were just talking and sharing, I'm not happy or sad. I'm fucking mad, I think, this year. If I have to be really honest,
Really?
like
Wow.
I think that anger, there's sadness in it, but if I was really like reflecting on that, like I said, we all contain multitudes, yes, but when I look at my braid, I want to set it on fire. I'm mad. Uh
Yeah.
I my birthday is on the 24th, and so like 2024 to me, like it's never seen no year in the 20 from 2010 on did not seem like a real year to me growing up, right? Like I was born in the 80s. And so everything just seemed so out there, but 2024, I was like, that seems like such a great year for me to have an anniversary of something or to like start a milestone or just like have fun and enjoy it and make it memorable. And it did not happen in those ways. It feels like it regressed from all the hopes I had for it. And so like you, like I'm ready for 2025. And I hope to be more intentional and specific with it in a way, but also as we talked about in the frolic episode, but just have fun so that I stop feeling bad about, the world spinning.
Don't you just want to stop feeling bad? I mean, not to the point where, please, everyone, understand this. It's not to the point where my head is in the sand, but I think it's also that I am not going to change the direction of anything. And so I'm also not going to give that power over me as to how my days go. Uh,
One of my vision board pictures this year, it didn't make it onto the vision board because I wanted to see it all the time. It's on my fridge and it just says, "You are the sun." And it's
mm,
it's a quote from Grey's Anatomy. Christina Yang is reminding Meredith, the boy that she's interested in is not the son. She is, right? And so it's just a reminder
yeah.
to me, right, that like everything I do or don't do, I am still the sun, right? Like it's still meant to feed and nurture me either way. And again, I can't believe it's taken me 8 minutes to say this. I saw a TikTok today. It's by Tori Scope. And she was sharing some of the current astrology for December and like where Mars is and stuff.
Yeah.
But she said it's this, we're probably having this feeling of being torn between wanting to seize the day or fuck around. And I was like, that's
I get
2024, right?
No, seriously, that is hitting so perfectly.
And for me, it's been every other day, right? So, like
Yeah,
Wednesday,
yeah.
I woke up and I was sad and I was miserable, and it took everything in me for most of the day to just like do what was next and only look to what's next and not just like shut the laptop and save it for tomorrow, Tracy, right? And then the next day, Thursday, I was like, today's the day. And it was, and I got so much done, and I was creative, and I had fun, and I went for walks, and I liked my dog, and I nothing was terrible at all. And then today I woke up and I was like, I'm not leaving my house. I have an 8 a.m. daily appointment. I was plot twist or spoiler alert, you were leaving your house. um, so yeah, seize the day or fuck around is kind of the close for 2024.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. So, what about 2025? What are we looking forward to in 2025?
The numerology.
Yeah. Hey, I love a good numerology chat. I
Good
do.
addition. I love a good angel number.
Hi, are you kidding me? God, the amount of time I spend figuring out the numerology of something, you have no idea. That needs to be one of my fun goals. Figure out the numerology of all of your friends' names.
Oh my God, you could be a Swiftie. Everything's about the numbers with them and the Easter eggs she's dropping. Um, okay, so numerology. It, this is gonna be a Tracy looked it up, but she didn't verify, kind of thing. So forgive me if you treat us as a source of truth. Please double check. Please do some research. This is a little bit of hey AI. This is a little bit of Google, a lot of
Trust,
TikTok.
as my friend Peggy always says, trust but verify.
Trust but verify. I work with auditors. We didn't. We. I just. This was fun. This is the fuck around day, you guys. Okay, so numerology is when you kind of take some numbers and add them together. So for in this instance, right, we're just adding
Take
together
some numbers
and
and
add them
add.
together.
Okay, it's a little bit
It's
more
a little bit more, but I'm not a
nuanced
numerologist,
than
so this
that.
is I'm not
Okay.
establishing credibility. I'm establishing this is some fun. This is like when Tracy just drove around looking for the signs, right? Like she wasn't gonna go home till she saw her special number on a trash can, Amy, right? Like we're going back to that year. Okay, so in this instance, the numbers you would add together, you take a larger number. So 2025 is our year. You break them down into individual integers and you add them together to get one number, or say like an angel number, right? Like if you get an 11, you wouldn't add that together to be two because 11s are special, correct? Okay.
They are. In numerology, they're not called angel numbers, they're called master numbers.
Master numbers, thank you.
Yeah.
But so when we add together 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5, we get a
hmm
9. I gotta say, when I was like looking today at like, hey, when did you look this up? I looked this up in July. So that is how 2024 has been. Um, so I'm just gonna read to you. So I asked it, what does the numerology for 2025 hold for us? So numerologically, that's kind of like the surgically word you were trying to say, or what did you say?
Yeah, you're good. You're good
Okay.
though. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the number 9 is associated with completion, endings, and transformation. It's often seen as a year of culmination and the wrapping up of cycles. This year might be about reflecting on what you've accomplished, integrating lessons learned, and preparing for new beginnings. It's a time for letting go of what no longer serves you and making way for new growth and opportunities. In essence, 2025 could be a year of closing out old chapters and preparing for the next phase. It's an invitation to assess what has been achieved, make peace with the past, and set the stage for the future. This period is often marked by a sense of fulfillment and the readiness to embrace new adventures with a deeper understanding and wisdom. Now, with that, so we have like the year for everybody, right? So just
hmm
kind of like how right now in December we're feeling like fuck around or like seize the day, right?
Yeah.
That's just kind
Yeah.
of like the energy for everything that's possible. But then I also was like, what's the numerology for me? And that's when it like combines your birthday. And so for
Yeah.
me personally, I'll have a personal year of 4. And so I'll kind of be in the energy of completion as well as building stability, discipline, and foundation. So my like recalibrate
Wow.
word is
Yeah.
hitting hard, right? Like I'm tying
Yeah.
stuff up, getting foundation going. Did you do your personal yet?
I always know what my personal year is because the number that I add to the year is 9, and so it always ends up being the number of the year. So
Oh,
so for next year, my personal year, it will be 9 as
you have a
well.
double 9. Okay, so Amy
Mhm.
actually knows about this stuff. So now we're gonna
I
shift to a little bit more.
okay.
She knows a little
I
bit more. She's a
I will say this. I will say this. When I was very young, when I was 11, we moved to Harmony Hills Study Center, and it was a parapsychology study center. I've talked about this just briefly. And I was in 6th grade, and so I would go to school, regular school during the day, and then I'd come home, and then I'd go to like classes like numerology, handwriting analysis, uh, palmistry, like as one does when they're 11 and 12. And so some things just soaked in. And so 9, 9 is one of those numbers that I just know it's end. If you hadn't said anything to me, if I had not read any notes, looked at any book, and you said, what does nine mean to you? I would have said, end of the old, beginning of the new. Because in numerology, except for the master numbers, you only go up to nine. So everything is based on one through nine. But the cool thing also is end of the old, beginning of the new is you have to clear out that
Mm.
old, right? You have to actually be like, what isn't working of this old? What
You have
can I
to.
make room for before you start any of the beginning of the new? So what you got from ChatGPT was actually really good.
Well, and I know a little bit about a nine because for numerology of just like the day and year I was born and like
Hmm.
what my personal number is, what my personal tarot card is, I'm a nine.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And the hermit, yes. So the hermit is a nine in the tarot, and the hermit is traditional tarot, top of the mountain, right? He's on the top of the mountain. Some people would say he's stuck in the snow. I don't see him as stuck in the snow. I see him as reflecting,
hmm.
standing still, reflecting. But I would also say that it's also a lot of inner work, right? You're seeking your inner light. But so it also culminates in, all right, I'm done with this. Now I'm going to shine my light out and look outwards. And then I wanted to go just a little bit deeper with like other tarot cards, the nines of all the suit
Oh
cards,
yeah,
all the pips,
because
pips.
we love us a nine of pentacles.
Nine of Pentacles, I said this in 147. Nine of Pentacles is like one of my favorite cards. And that is, I actually came up with the term satisfying accumulation. So while she has accumulated this wealth, these pentacles, it hasn't been overindulgence. It's been, yes, this is the amount that I want, while still having some left over to be generous with. It's
Mm.
also an accumulation of wisdom and independence. And then the Nine of Cups is that wish fulfillment card and to act as if. Then you get into a little tricky, like the Nine of Wands is like setbacks, challenges, but also perseverance. Like you just keep doing it,
If you
you
want
keep
it, this is
going.
the final boss in the video game
Yes.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes, and yep, you might have a bandage on your head, but you're going to stand your ground. Then the Nine of Swords, which is your basic nightmare card. But with that, I would say worry does no one any good. You have to face your fears and you have to get everything out of that head. So instead of all these like thoughts and ruminations and what did I fail at? You got to get it out of your head and on paper. And so I
And
feel like all of these are really interesting for nines.
I feel like for the nine of swords too, or even the nine of wands, like, do you want to stay there or do you want to see what's next? Right? Like
Yeah.
the nine of pentacles and the nine of cups are showing you it's so good and it can get better, right? Like, and then the
Hmm.
nine of wands and nine of swords is like, you could hang out here, but what are you gonna do? Right? Like, it's kind of
Yeah.
encouraging you, like, it's not gonna be right. Like the first nine of cups, you said wish fulfillment, right? Like
Yeah.
the wands and the swords are kind of telling you you still have to take action, right? Like it's not all just going to be the universe, right? You have to align yourself, you have to make space, right? Like that's huge in
Mhm.
feng shui and so many other things too that like
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you want a relationship but every single closet is full, everything, the side of the bed you don't sleep on, you keep clothes on, right? Like if you're not making room for another person in your life, how will that energy be welcome? How does it know it's there?
100%. And then there were some other words that were attributed to nine numerologically,
Ooh.
like perfection, which I think is interesting. But I think it's perfection because it's the ultimate number
Yep.
in numerology. Compassion, spirituality, multi-talented, reward. I like to think of the spirituality and multi-talented that also kind of goes with the ninth house in astrology.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, so those are just some different things. And plus, I always love that nine. If you add any number to nine, The total is so like 9 plus 5 is 14. 1 plus 4 is 5. So any number you add to 9, you can always get that
Yeah,
number
yeah.
again by adding the total. It's hard to explain.
I followed you. I mean, I was reading it, but I was following. I I am so ready for completion. And I think a lot of the work that I was doing around turning 40 and like trying to close out of my 30s,
Mhm.
despite me not having the beginning I wanted, like right at 40, a lot of the stuff at the that second paragraph I read at the beginning from the chat GPT explanation is what I was doing with my 30s. So it's just a reminder to me, like, take some time and clear out a little bit more room, right? Like you
Mm,
still don't know what you want,
yeah,
or there's still stuff you haven't finished, or that's just not working, right? Like now's the time to like pull the trigger on it and just like get off the pot or whatever they say that's not very
right.
podcast worthy of saying. Um maybe don't shut into a microphone, but um I don't know about I don't remember what 2024, so that was an 8. Do you off the top of your head, do you know what an 8 year is?
So 8 is actually usually like success, money, things like that. 8 is a considered a lucky number. Of course, it's sort of infinity on its side, but
Yeah,
and also there can of course be challenges, but in tarot it's the strength card, so it's sort of that patience with what I mean,
strength. Yeah.
yeah. And I feel like, especially if you look at your year, you had to have a lot of strength to
My
get through your
year,
year.
look at you. You also have had to have a lot of strength. I think the one thing for both of us, maybe we didn't achieve or have the completion moment or the frolic and the freedom we were kind of hoping for. We didn't make our lives worse, right? Like
Right. No, we
I
didn't.
maintained, right? Like despite the
Yeah.
challenges, I held strength and I maintained. Um, and that puts me in a really good position for tying things up next year.
I, yes, thank you for that. And I think that that is something really important, that maintaining is actually good. That's a good thing. My mom used to always say, you have to maintain the health you have right now, like without putting an undue pressure on people. Like, you need to get healthier. She would say, you have to maintain what you have now. Don't lose what you have now. And so I think that we don't give ourselves credit for maintaining.
Or I
That's a really
just,
good point.
for me, an overarching goal I've had since buying this home, and I keep bringing it up because I didn't think I was going to do it. And it felt very, like synchronistic that it did. But my goal all along, my house is almost 100 years old. And so I just want to be a good home steward. And so I just look at everything that I haven't improved, that I haven't fixed, that I may not be able to afford for a little while. But I just had to, like, in reflecting on this year and my health and everything else, it's just like, you know what? You had 7 surgeries and you didn't have to sell your house. You still figured out how to take care of it. It didn't get worse. Knock on
Wow.
wood, right? Like,
Yes. Yes.
that I am being a good home steward. That does being a good home steward doesn't mean building a fence and getting a new roof and, remodeling the basement, right? Like those are wishes right now. Those are future goals. But that I've maintained my home really well given everything of the past 7 years, 6.5
Hmm.
years I've been in it.
Hmm.
And instead I've just like turned that into the gratitude, right? That I love my casita and I'm thankful for everything it's given for me and I'm thankful for what I've been able to do. I'm going to stop guilting myself for what I haven't done because I haven't made it worse.
Right. I love that. I think that for me, in that same respect, now that I think about it, 2024 was more like, how can I um get through 2024 without quitting my job?
Yeah.
And because I was having some struggles. I really was. And so it got to a not got to, but I feel like I maintained that as well. Like, yep, this is fine. This is what I'll do. This is what I'm doing. Uh,
But and within that, right? Like you use that as fuel for looking forward to the future and for retiring and how you want to
Mhm.
prepare and how maybe you want to use your lessons with that to help other people prepare. You've
Mhm.
maintained a podcast, you did a mini little remodel on your home, right? Like,
Oh yeah, that's right.
right? Like, so despite having a really full and taxing career at times, I feel like you've still done a pretty good job of maintaining everything else. I think what suffered in the meantime and where you've needed strength is internally, right? Like, and so it
Yeah.
makes sense that 9 is that inner work, right? So like I feel like we've both externally have maintained this year, but it kind of came at a cost of our attitude and our mood and our feel for the future.
Yeah.
And so I think next year, like how I'm going to kind of like take the learnings of 2024 forward is like, okay, maybe some of this completion stuff is the inner work now, right? Like we got to maintain that better.
Yeah, I think, well, when I think about, so I'm gonna, unless I'm jumping ahead and I
Go
shouldn't be
jump,
jumping.
take a leap.
So when I think about 2025, and I think that it's, like the culmination and the end of the old, beginning of the new, I'm literally looking at, it'll be my, knock on wood, last full year,
Calendar year, yeah.
last calendar year of employment.
Oh my gosh.
I plan on going into 2026, but only for a few months.
But still,
And I
Amy, like this it'll be your last October at the job potentially, right? Like your last November. I'm not going to make you pick what date or announce what date you're retiring, but at some point
right,
next year
right.
you will have this moment of measurement of this is the last season of this. This is the last
Mhm.
summer I'll drive to work. This is the last winter storm I'll drive, right? Like that's kind of huge.
It is huge. So it makes sense to me that next year is a nine. It makes, like, for me, it makes personal sense that it's a nine universal year and it's a personal year nine. And then that 2026 for me will be a one, a starting over, right? So it's kind of synchronistic. It's pretty cool when I look at it like that. Um, and so I'm not sure why 2024 for me, why I'm just like, why isn't this easy? Like what's happening? And you'd also think that for somebody who has less than a year and a half left to, be in their career, that they'd be happier and not like a little whiny baby, which sometimes I feel like.
It
And
gets harder to put up with things when you're leaving
it
it though,
does.
right?
Let
Like
me tell you, the BS monitor is it's blowing its gasket. That's what's happening.
and I mean, don't you just want like your last thing at something to just be fun and simple and remember the good times? And instead you're like, I gotta do the work. You're giving me more work. I was already doing the work and now I have more. I I think it's so interesting that your years are aligning like that, right?
Yeah.
That both your personal year
Yeah.
and the year are a
Hmm.
9 and it's the year that's, you know, uh, when you hit the 1 year, you will be beginning a new life. I've been meaning to go back and like, I know I've done it in the moment and seen where it aligns and when it doesn't, but kind of in that like reflecting of my 30s or the decade or whatnot, just kind of
Yeah.
reminding me like, where did it align to kind of like help analyze and predict or look forward to the future? Because I know in the past there
Yeah.
have been things that have aligned really, really well. I'm thinking I may have had like my personal year number was a 1 in 2020. If this year is a 4,
Yeah.
um and that year for me, right? Like I was looking forward to beginnings in relationships or beginnings in a career or like you're looking for the big beautiful things, right? And now when I look back at that and I have that realization, that was my first surgery that gave me the knowledge like the very insider knowledge of what was going on in my body to be able to fight to get that surgery last year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I'm so frustrated with this year is that surgery fixed a 15-year pain journey. And then here I am, not just like seizing the day every day all year, right? Like the universe is still like, hold up. We got some stuff, we have some other stuff to do before you start this next phase.
Right, right.
Um, and so I'm looking forward to the completion because I was like, oh, like I want a sense of alignment between body and mind. And I think I spent this year waiting for it to happen, and the opposite happened, right? And so I think next year it's make it happen, right? While having fun, but
Well, and
while
it goes,
recalibrating.
yeah, recalibrating. Exactly. It goes back to your word of the year. So yeah, I think that that's so interesting that 2020 was a one. I feel like you were robbed in a way. Not really,
But
but
I mean, it it was right. Like it wasn't like I met the love of my life or I had a baby or I mean I had already bought a house, right? Like so I was glad that that didn't happen again. But like when I look at beginnings, I started a work from home job. Without this
yeah.
work from home, I could not have handled this medical stuff.
No, you're
Um,
right.
and so I mean, if this is the life I had, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that work from home thing was key to
Mm-hmm.
being able to do any of it and doing it as well as I did and maintain
Yeah.
and not having to give up. And so I really do feel like there were beginnings and probably necessary beginnings, right? And so now I'm real curious what 2026 would be, right? Like I don't want to jump too far ahead. Um, but it's also interesting, and we're not astrologists, but like Aquarius and Pluto and goodbye Capricorn,
Oh
right? Like
yeah,
major shifts happened this
yes.
month.
Yes.
And to me, like, although new beginnings don't happen instantly, I think next year is a lot of endings are going to happen next year on a global
Yeah.
scale,
Yes. Agreed.
national, local.
Agreed. Yeah.
And so I'm just eagerly anticipating what those are as well, because I think that'll
Mm-hmm.
really indicate what my future beginnings are and when we all go into a 1 year. Um,
Yeah, I think, all the outer planets are moving into new signs next year, like all closer together. And of course, like you just brought up, that Pluto did move into Aquarius now and is now in Aquarius. And we'll start 2025 in the actual age of Aquarius. So
And
that,
the
yeah.
north nodes and the north and south nodes
Mm-hmm.
change in January. And they go
Mm-hmm.
from Aries, what's Aries opposite sign?
Aries and Libra
Aries and Libra to Virgo
to,
and Pisces.
yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And I know I'm a Virgo sun. I'm not a Virgo north node, but like all of this all affects everything. But even if it's, not my direct placements or anything where I'll see sweeping changes, I always love when the nodes change because I do notice subtle changes in my life around those times too. Because it's like what, a year and a half to 2.5 years or something like that that they're
I think it's
moving
one and a
backwards.
half. Yeah. And this last year, not to get too in depth in astrology that I don't know, but this last year, the nodes were in my opposite nodes because my north node is in Libra and my south node is in Aries, but it was actually north in Aries and south in Libra. So maybe that's why I had such a
I was just gonna
discombobulating year.
say, is
Yeah.
is
It
there
was like,
discomfort there?
yeah.
Um, because for me, I struggle with my North Node. My North Node is in Gemini and my South Node is in Sagittarius, and I'm real comfortable in Sagittarius. That's where my rising is.
That's
Um,
why you're comfortable, though. It's
yeah,
because it's your south node.
and because
I'm
it's my
real
South Node.
comfortable in Aries, which is also my rising as well,
Yeah,
right? Libra, which actually I think I've told you, if I weren't a Sagittarius, I always felt like I'd probably be a Libra.
I agree.
But
I think that's
but
your Taurus moon, but I get it. Yeah.
yeah, but Libra is all about, like, oh, doing things like collaboratively and together. And I'm always like, this is what needs to be done, and I'm the leader, and blah 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 blah. So I feel your pain.
Well, and so my North Node is Gemini, and so a lot of, what I'm supposed to be doing is communicating, which is real funny. I have a microphone in front of me. Um, but so everybody thinks that my boss is really pushing me to take on certain roles related to that, and other people really want to push me to the forefront, or you've always been really complimentary about where,
Hmm.
my future should lay with these skills. And I think that's
Yeah.
because my Mercury is in Virgo, which are both Gemini and Virgo, are ruled by Mercury. But I just want to be the right hand of the guy. I don't want to be the guy, right? And so I have to find that comfort in being at the forefront and finding a way to do that.
Oh, that's
Um,
so interesting. Yeah, we're kind of that is really
and I
interesting.
don't know about you. I don't have any other planets or in my North Node. Um, oh no, oh sorry. I have one, Chiron. So
Just
so that
add
might
insult to injury.
right. So that
Yeah.
probably explains why I don't like it there. Again, we're fans of astrology. We are not astrologists, but so there's a lot going on in the stars. All stars are beautiful, and everything is how you react to it, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm just looking forward to the 9 year of helping me kind of pull it all together and energetically have new beginnings in 2026,
Yeah.
right?
I feel like one thing that would actually tying this up with a past episode is if you haven't listened to the Minimalistas, I
Mm.
feel that that would actually be sort of an empowering thing to get that book. You can get it from the library. So it's called Minimalista, and it is a book on just like getting yourself, your home, your environment sort of under control. Um, and I feel like end of the old, beginning of the new, get rid of the things that no longer serve you. I think that if you,
That was a little limerick there. And of the old, beginning of the new, get rid of the things that no longer serve you.
oh, look at
I
that,
should have.
another
Okay, sorry.
t-shirt.
I
Okay.
interrupted you. Go on.
No, I was just going to say that sometimes we have to do these tangible things
Hmm.
to make space in our space before we can actually have space in ourselves to think about the things for ourselves.
Yeah. So, I mean, with that, think about, I mean, we've kind of shared this already, kind of in this, but for you, the listener, think about like how this numerology for next year aligns, goes against, scares, or excites you. Are there beginnings that are foreshadowing in your life? I think there are for me. I have felt that way for 2 to 3 years, but I've also felt like it's not right. It's not time. I haven't done the steps yet. And so I'm also feeling a little nervous about next year because I didn't do it this year. So I got to do it next year. And then think about like, are there endings you've been fighting or are there endings you're looking
Oh,
forward to?
that's I think that, that's a tough question, and I'm all about asking ourselves tough questions. Are there endings that you've been fighting? I think that sometimes, that can be as simple as, oh gosh, I I started this exercise thing and it just makes me mad every time I have to go on the app and add something to it. Like it literally makes me mad. And when the app is like, "Hey, did you add your water?" I'm like, "Oh, F you." Like so I went on today and was just like, "I'm done. I'm
Delete.
I don't want you
I
anymore."
Amy, I have two books on my TBR pile at the bottom of my stairs. So every time I go down the stairs, I see it on my literal to be read cart. Since 2020, when TikTok was like, "Hey, these are the best books ever. You should read them." Um, one of them I'm reading only because people I really admire are talking about, "Wow, it's the most amazing book." I think I'm almost halfway through, and I'm still waiting. And then the other one, I think I have read the same 3 chapters every year. And I remember them in full. I don't know why I keep rereading them, thinking I don't. And usually I'm pretty good. Life's too short to read bad books. And the books aren't bad. I just haven't fallen into them. And I
Hmm.
purchased them. They were recommended. And like,
Yeah,
I was like, you're either doing it by the end of the year or they're going in the little free library and we're done
good.
with them. We're taking them off the list, right? Like, so sometimes it's as simple as that. And
Yes.
if you don't have the simple ones or if you're not ready for the shadow work, start with what you're celebrating and what you know you'll achieve and like get that out and then see what that kind of unearths for like what's still kind of scratching in your head of like, we haven't done this yet. Mm.
I think we're going to be cut off here. So, hey, everybody, have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful 2025, and we'll see you next episode.
Have a bright and beautiful day.